Anyone who knows me knows that I am a huge Lotus fanboy. I think ever since that documentary they made in the 90s, which was about the making of the Lotus Elise, from then on, I have been obsessed with Lotus and what the brand stood for. I've always been rooting for them and wanting them to succeed over the likes of Porsche, Mercedes, BMW, because they have always pushed the boundaries of what is possible and come out with a car that has always favored the drivers and had the drivers in mind and nothing else. They've never gone for those big 0 to 60 times where they're just going for what people look for on Auto Trader so they can say down the pub who has the fastest car 0 to 60. It's all about the driving and how it makes the driver feel. So for me, I've always wanted a Lotus. In fact, I drove a Lotus Evora, which I will be reviewing on this channel, and to be honest, to spoiler that video, I was blown away by it. I absolutely loved it. And out of all the cars I test drove, that was the one that made me feel most alive. Now, I've just watched the announcement video of the Lotus Emira, and I thought that Lotus have knocked it out the park with this car. It's absolutely phenomenal looking. It's probably one of the best cars I've seen in the last 10 years in terms of looks, especially that rear end. It reminds me of the current Aston Martin DBS. That in fact also it has a little bit of vantage about it, but I would say DBS and the way that they have those curved lights. They are clearly competing for the market of the Porsche Cayman and maybe take a little chunk from the Porsche 911. Everything about that launch video was about usability. Clearly they took a lot of criticism over the years, but from the Lotus Elise, the Exige, and to some extent the Evora about usability. For example, yes, the Lotus Evora has the back seats, but they're kind of unusable and they are mainly for storage space, and the boot just melts anything that's in there, so you can't really put shopping in there and it's pretty small. Sadly, it doesn't stop me wanting one, and I don't know why, but that's just what Lotus does for you. But there is one thing that I don't feel will be covered in the reviews of the Lotus Emira, and that is the engine and the transmission, because they haven't announced it yet exactly what transmission is coming with what car. And they have openly and honestly said that they are using the same Toyota engine that they have for so many years in the Evora. Now, the Evora has come under a lot of criticism in that it is using a Toyota engine from a Toyota Camry. It's a V6 and they're using it yet again. And then that starts people thinking, hold on a second, is this just a facelifted Evora? Because it is essentially the same size, same dimensions, same weight. You get a manual gearbox, an auto gearbox, and a DCT, but you also have a 2-liter AMG Mercedes 4-cylinder available as well. So is that going to be what gets the DCT? And then you get the same V6 with the single clutch auto box that came with the Evora. And the question is, should that bother you? And for me, it shouldn't. I know that Mercedes and Porsche and BMW all manufacture their own engines. But for me, if the Toyota Camry V6 engine is a good enough engine and is reliable, and essentially they sat down and thought, we actually couldn't engineer an engine better for this car if we tried, therefore it is more cost effective for us to go ahead and take one from Toyota. And also, this is Lotus's last internal combustion engine before they go on to move to fully electric. Therefore, it does not make cost effective sense to go and develop their own engine in-house, because they're moving to electric and that is where all of their budgets will be spent. So they would have to increase the price of the car by around 50%, maybe even double, to even make back the money on what it would cost to develop their own engine. So it makes so much more sense to source it from other manufacturers when they are essentially just as good and reliable. And that got the Evora a lot of stick. We heard stories of people going to car meets and being shouted, "Nice Toyota, mate." And that is just pretty horrible from the car community, and it's quite sad because clearly the Evora was an amazing car, but what let the Evora down was that practicality side. Plus it was starting to look a little bit dated with the looks, but I'd still be pretty happy with the Evora. I still think it looks cool, and the interior really did let it down in comparison to a Porsche Cayman or a 918 or a 718. The interior and just the feel of it was not the same. So you really were having to look past that and think more about the driving experience and ownership experience of the Lotus. So it's almost as if they have re-released the Evora. This is like the Evora 2.0 with a beautiful interior, the best technology and all the technology you want, including a touchscreen infotainment, which we never thought we'd see in a Lotus because normally it's just sourced from someone else. Maybe they have teamed up with a Mercedes or something like that. The future will tell. They've also now gone for that Mercedes 2-litre 4-cylinder engine, which to me clearly is why Toyota went for their 2-litre in the Supra. The F-Type, they've got a 2-litre 4-cylinder option now, and then you've got the 718 Cayman, which is a 2-litre 4-cylinder turbo. And the reason for that is the Chinese market. Lotus are owned by Geely Motors, and they will be pushing, saying we need to be able to sell in the Chinese market, and a 3-litre V6 is not going to cut it. Therefore, to be able to make it affordable with all of the emissions taxes in China, we're going to need to source a 2-litre 4-cylinder, and they have done from Mercedes. However, if they've took the DCT from Mercedes and then left the V6 paired with the Toyota engine, then unfortunately I don't feel that is a big enough step up. We need to see that there is a DCT option paired with that V6. That would be the absolute dream car. And then I think Lotus would start to become competitive and threaten the market share of the 911 and also the 718 Cayman. But if they're not going to improve that gearbox and remain as a single clutch, I think that's going to be difficult. Yes, there is a manual gearbox in there, and I assume that most of them will sell as a manual, and I think therefore it's going to be a fantastic driver's car, and I'm blown away by it. I did not expect Lotus to come up with something that looks this stunning, especially with the interior, and be able to keep that amazing V6. To conclude, don't care that is made by Toyota, and I don't think anyone else should either, because it is amazing. It proved to be reliable for the whole production run of the Evora, and with 400 brake horsepower and that noise, it is going to tick all of the boxes for a driver's car that you will ever need. So that's my thoughts on the Lotus Emira. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Drop it a like if you have. Drop the comment below of what your opinion is on whether you like the car. Is there an alternative that you would rather buy? And also subscribe if you're not already. See you in the next one.